All right, Saddle Hunting 101, part 2. If you're new here, click the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, thank you, help us grow the channel. So part 1, if you missed that, go back and look at that, but we went over all the gear that I use. So as you've seen, this is it. You know, this is probably one of the biggest reasons I think and advantages to saddle hunting is packability, walking through the brush and stuff. I don't have a tree stand hanging off of me or anything. Today what we're gonna do my climbing method. So I single stick. We're gonna go over everything I use. We're just right here in the backyard. I'm gonna probably just do one move to show you how it works, and we'll rappel down. You'll see exactly how that works. I'm just gonna go through it slow, so don't judge me on time. We're gonna walk through it, talk through it, show you how it works for me. There's plenty of people that do this. There's plenty of other great channels out there. I'm showing you my view, so you can kind of take from everybody, pick and choose what you like, put it together, and make a system that works for you. That's exactly what I've done. So stay tuned. All right, so we'll start this off real quick with the legal disclaimer. Anytime your feet leave the ground, there's an inherent danger with that, right? So what I'm saying today is not necessarily what's perfect, not what you should do. I'm gonna show you what works for me and how I do it. And I'm not gonna say that you should do it this way. It's just what works for me. What I found through this season works great. All right, so when I get to the tree, we're gonna climb this tree here today. So the first thing all I do is I'm gonna pop my pack off. And I have my stick on the side, off one strap. Set that at the base of the tree. I'm gonna put my pack back on. I'll climb. For today, I'm just gonna leave the pack off since I don't need it. So my stick, what am I using? So this is a Gen 1. This is the old school Hawk Helium before they had all the problems. So it's been cut to 17 inches, 2 steps, running a Lone Wolf Versa button on it, and a 7/64 amsteel daisy chain. And then I have a permanently attached 1/4 inch amsteel 3-step aider that I made out of just some amsteel that I had laying around. So there's what we're looking at. So going up to the tree, I'm basically gonna reach up pretty much as high as I can reach, and we're gonna set the first stick there. So that's what that's gonna look like. So the next part of this system is going to be the rope, the rappelling devices, and all that. As you've seen in part 1, in my right pouch, I've got my rope and all that. So I'm gonna pull out. So it's a Delta Tri-Link scaffold hitched on there. Behind that is a stopper knot. Behind that is a madrock safeguard, okay? So that's gonna be the system we're using. There's 32 feet of rope is what I use. All right, so we set our stick almost as high as we can reach it. So for me, I bring my Delta Tri-Link out. I'm gonna lay it around. My madrock safeguard's already on the rope. So since we're gonna be sitting in the saddle, I'm gonna loosen my belt up just a little bit, let the saddle drop. So I'm gonna go ahead and open my utility bridge up a little bit. And before I leave the ground, I'm gonna go ahead and just clip into that. And that's one less thing I got to mess with once I get up in the tree. Okay, so at this point I'm ready to climb. For me, I'm not going to hook in until I get up. So just with all aider use, remember it's toe to tree is key there. If you don't keep your toe to tree, don't blame the stick when it slips and you fall. So once I'm at this point, this is where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to step and hook up my tether. So obviously my feet are about 6 feet off the ground. So yes, I went the first 6 feet without being hooked up. Put my tether up where I want it. The stopper knot is going to go up, and that's what keeps that from moving on me. So see, now that'll stay there without me messing with it. Take some slack out of my rope, kind of where I want it to be. I like to put this on the side of the tree. So my stick was here. I'm going to put this on the side so that I can hang off the side of the tree. Okay, so we have that off to the side. We have our stopper knot keeping it from moving on us. We've got this where we want to be. We're clipped into our bridge. So So at this point, we're gonna sit into the saddle. So now I'm sitting here. There's no effort at all. I'm just gonna swing myself to the side of the tree. Gonna reach around, reach down, and do that daisy chain. So then as we're sitting here, the rope's off to the sides. We're gonna set the stick again. This is not the greatest tree to climb, but we're in my backyard. That's what I got. We're gonna set that. One thing I've learned over time is to make sure your tether's not catching that. See what happens? So you make sure your tether is above it. A lot of times I'll flip that step up. So that way I got a clear for my tether. So at that point, we're back into the aider. We're gonna step back in. There's really no effort at all, right? We were kind of just sitting here waiting at that distance. Grab the tree, step into the aider, and we're moving, right? So here's a good example of being stuck into some branches. So I'm just gonna take the slack out of that because I'm stuck for a second because of these branches, right? And I don't even have my feet on the first step yet, but I'm stuck right here. And I need to disconnect and move up. So in that pouch, I keep a 7/64 daisy chain. It's actually my gear hoist. So what I'm gonna do with that though, is come over here to my left side lineman's loop. I'm going to girth hitch that so it looks like that. Come around the tree. I keep a carabiner on this side. It's there. Serves two purposes. Today is the one purpose is for that. So with that daisy chain like that, I'm gonna clip in and then use that as a lineman's belt for just a second. So at that point, we can take the slack off this. And I'm still sitting in the aider, just waiting. There's nothing to worry about there. I'm not going nowhere. The lineman's is gonna hold me. Now I can undo this. I'm just gonna go here for now, for all intents and purposes of what we're doing. And I can hook up above the limb. Screw my screw link back down. Put my weight back on that. Move my stopper knot. Now I can take that off. Like I said, it's just a temporary so that I can move around a limb. I'll leave that there. So now I'm still there. And I can move on up, right? Slide the tether up as we go. Make sense? It's really simple. There's nothing to it. There's no energy expended. I don't think it's any harder than what it would be to hang 3 sticks and move them. Okay? So now we're sitting here. We could set our platform. We could be hunting and doing what we want to do, right? So the evening's over. Now it's time to come down and rappel. So with this left small pouch, if you remember right from part 1 we talked, I keep 30 foot of paracord in there. It's my bow pull-up rope. And it's also going to be my bow retrieval rope. So I've got that dog leash style clip here and the hook there. So what I do is lower my bow down with this. So that's going to be on the ground with my bow on the end of it. I'm going to take this hook here and I hook it behind the scaffolding hitch. So it looks like that. So that's there. Lowered my bow down. My bow's on the ground. That's hooked behind the scaffolding hitch. Okay. This stopper knot, we're going to move the knot so that it's behind there, so it doesn't interfere with us retrieving the rope. Okay. So once we're ready, we're going to take that 32 foot of rope out of our pouch. We're going to drop it on the ground. So we have that as our rappel line. We're done. We're hands free. The madrock safeguard's doing its job. So a good rappelling technique, the standing end of the rope is going to be in my hand. I'm going to keep it down near my hip, using the handle of the safeguard. I can control this descent. At this point, I'm stopping, still hands free. The safeguard's doing all the work. I would get my ridge runner, take it off, hook it on my saddle. I'm going to grab my stick while I'm here, undo it, So on the top step, I keep this little loop of paracord, and I have one of those MOLLE clips on the back of my saddle. So I'm gonna clip that, and that's taken care of now. So my hands, I'm not trying to carry anything, not hold anything. My ridge runner's hanging on one side, my stick's hanging on my back, my backpack's on my back, my bow's on the end of on the ground. And we're gonna go ahead and rappel down. We can keep our feet on the tree, we can free, we can do whatever we want. Sometimes gravity's gonna take what it wants and you're just gonna have to let it go. So sometimes the gravity's gonna swing you to the other side of the tree. It is what it is, let it go. It's okay. So we can control this descent. And then we're just gonna work ourselves down. You can go as fast or as slow as you want. Like I said, if something happens, gravity swings you, it is what it is. You're not going anywhere, don't worry about it. So we can drop quick. We can stop at any point in time. If something happens, you don't feel comfortable, you can stop. It's not a big deal. You're not going nowhere. And simple as that, you're back on the ground, okay? So we'll undo, we're gonna unhook from our bridge. Get our stick off of our saddle because that weight's pulling everything down. Usually I go ahead and tighten my belt back up. Put the bridge back where it belongs. This is less stuff I have hanging. Okay, if it's a limbless tree, you can usually leave the safeguard on here. But since we went around a limb, we're taking the safeguard off. So for me, open it up, take your rope out. I click my beaner in it. I click it there so it's not on the ground. Okay, so we had our bow on the bottom of this paracord. We already took care of that, right? So at this point, we're down here. Our rope's still in the tree. We got that paracord hooked to it. Now what? So we hook that paracord behind our scaffolding hitch. All we're gonna do is pull on that. See how that let loose? Put you on a limb, right? So we just keep pulling. And as we pull, the scaffold hitch with the tri-link is gonna come down to us. The standing end of the rope is going to work its way up through. Pull that through. We're going to undo this at the time. And then we just pull the rest of the rope through where the branch was. Like I said, if it was a limbless tree, the whole thing would have just fallen. Okay, once we're back down here, I just take the end of the rope in my hand. We're just going to figure 8 that. I leave probably, I don't know, maybe 6 feet. So this part of the rope's gonna take that. I fold it. Dump pouch, nothing fancy. It's an Amazon dump pouch. You can get them on Amazon. So that part of the rope's gonna go in there. We're left with this much. Our stopper knot can come down to a decent distance that we know we might need it for a tree. Our safeguard goes back on, ensuring you know it's oriented the same way every time. So if you're right-handed, for me, right-handed, so the handle goes away from me like that and pointing up. Open that up. Rope goes in like that, closed. Put your carabiner back in that, and that's ready to hunt the next time. So for me, I'm gonna slide that all the way down. Where I can lay it right on top of all the rope. The rest of the rope. I always take this link and open it back up because the first thing I need when I get up on my stick the next time I hunt is I need this thing open so I can pass the rope through it. So I always open it so it's preset, ready to go. So the rest of this just gets bunched up. Back in the pouch. And that's all ready to go. So next thing we'll do is we'll pick our paracord up. I like to take a couple extra minutes when I'm done with my hunt to put everything back the way it belongs so I'm not messing with it. I don't want everything to be a mess. Okay, so I lay that behind my thumb and we're gonna figure 8 that. There's plenty of videos out there showing you how to figure 8 rope. It will keep it from tangling. Once that's there, slide that off your thumbs. I keep that in this small pouch. Underneath that would have been my recliner. Once we go through setting the tree and sitting and getting comfortable, we'll break the recliner out. Today I just want to do climbing method. So that's back. So there's everything back the way it belongs. So my saddle's all back together. So the next thing I got is the stick. The way I run it, I fold my bottom steps up where my aider was. I grab my bottom and my middle steps, hook them across the top. So that basically the aider ends up all like that. run the daisy chain around that in a loop, and that's just going to keep the aider from catching on anything. And then I've got a little piece of bungee on the end of that daisy chain when I made it, and that's just going to hook around the lone wolf button. And there's the stick back the way it belongs. Put that back on my pack and slap my ridge runner on the pack, and we're off and headed back to the truck. So maybe that answers some questions. Maybe that shows you something you haven't seen. If you've got any comments, any questions at all, drop them down below. I'll do my absolute best to answer them, and we can kind of go from there. All right, so hopefully that helps some people. Part 3 will be coming up next. Part 3 is going to be in the tree. We'll set our platform. We'll get on our platform, and then we'll just go through some adjustments, like how do we adjust things, how do we set the tether up, height adjustments, how do we get for comfort. I hear everybody talk about hip pinch and this and that, so we're just gonna go through some things that I've learned over my time in the saddle, what works for me to get comfortable, to stay comfortable, to minimize movement, and then that'll be part 3, I think. And then from there, what we're probably gonna do is, I'd like to do 4, 5, 6, maybe we'll do archery from the saddle, crossbow from the saddle, rifle from the saddle, because I see a lot of questions come up about that. So maybe we'll go through all that through a couple series, and we'll just work our way through that. So any questions, let me know. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. Thanks.